You're listening to the Radcast, a top 25 worldwide business podcast. If it's radical, we cover it. Here's your host, Ryan Alford.
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the latest edition of the Radcast. I'm Ryan Alford, your host. We say if it's radical, we cover it. Well, my friend here today is here to talk about radical coaching and radical ways to take knowledge and turn it into money. We're talking to Tanner Chidester. What's up, brother? CEO of Elite CEOs, or founder. I got too many titles. I'm CEO of CEOs. that is a title though. That's a great title. The CEO of CEOs, Tanner.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Yeah, I wanted to make sure people knew what it was about when I built it. So
hey,
that's what I want.
There you go. It's like the superhero of CEOs, you know? I like it, man. Coming to you from hot Miami. My business partner's down there. I know you're just getting back from your world tour. Sounded like I was jealous listening to Tanner pre-episode talking about his world travels, man. So I'm jealous.
Yeah, it was super fun. I was going to go, like I was telling you prior, I was going to go for the year, but I got 6 months. I got to see a little bit of Europe, not as much as I wanted. Africa was, amazing. That was actually probably the coolest, and then destroyed South America. So I think next time I go out, I'll start in Europe and Asia. That's kind of my plan.
There you go. I'll just live vicariously through you, I'll continue to watch your feed. With 4 kids and 5 businesses, it gets a little different with children in the house,
Yeah, I was actually one of 7 kids. So I'm not sure if I'm going to have any because of that, but I can relate at least growing up in a household like that. I don't have any of my own, but I can totally imagine how your house looks.
Maybe one day. Tanner, man, let's start from the beginning, brother. We talked pre-episode, and I liked hearing, just because I went through some similar, let's say, opportunities. We won't say struggles, opportunities. Every door closes and another one opens, right? But let's give everybody a little background on you before we get into everything going on with Elite CEOs.
Sure. Yeah. So I grew up, like I was saying, family of 7 kids, and I had 4 sisters, 2 brothers. It's kind of I would say I was a little bit of a weird kid, or maybe a strange kid, because I had my 2 older sisters. They put me in dresses and tea parties, and I had no older brothers. And, I don't know why my dad would allow that, but, got through school, started getting bullied a lot. And around 6th grade, I started asking my parents if I could go to the gym before school, to get some respect. And, in my head, I think I was going to beat these kids up. And after about 3 months of doing that consistently, started getting a lot of, respect. And that actually is what propelled me into sports. And I started really excelling in sports, got to play a little bit at the D1 level, didn't really go anywhere, got hurt a lot. Probably also wasn't going to be good enough, but, my whole dream was to go to the pros. And then when that ended, I had a discussion with a mentor who knew my family. And he actually convinced me to drop out of school. I was at petroleum engineering, had like a year left, really good GPA. But he just said, man, if that's not what you want to do, you're wasting your time, like start your business. And then I spent the next 3 years trying to get this business off the ground. I made probably $2,000 the first 3 years. And I was about to quit and go back to school, and then it took off. And I started a fitness company, did super well. That propelled into helping trainers, and then that propelled into Elite CEOs. And now we're about coming up on 6 years, and it's been a huge blessing in my life. It's changed it. So,
hey man, congrats. I also talked to ex-athletes, and actually had a guy that's doing some mentoring with ex-athletes because of some of the struggles they have, like transitioning from the highs of being at the highest level athletically and then transitioning. But I told him, and I agree, like if you can get the mental thing right, or flip that switch and take all of that, discipline, desire, coachability and all that, and flip it into something in a career, it tends to work out very well for either someone you work for or yourself. And so it's like you've channeled it into your own thing, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think with sports, for me, it just, you face a lot of adversity in a lot of different ways. And I don't know if I would have been ready for that in the real world, because a lot of times in the real world, if you don't want to face any adversity, you don't have to. You can just quit and stop. And in sports, you don't really have that option. You know, if the coaches say, hey, you got to do this, you do it. If you have other athletes on the team, you have to compete against them. So I agree with you. I think a lot of stuff in sports translates very well.
I see there's so much of the coaching and the online money making, I'll call it the sizzle. You know, I'm a marketing guy. You know, I talk about sizzle and steak a lot. You know, there's a lot of sizzle, but there's not always a lot of steak. And so what I wonder when I see a guy like you that seems to have really turned it into both sizzle and steak, you know, what's the differentiation for, you know, the average guy, girl? I guess age doesn't matter, but it's just, I see the young guns like, I'm going to get rich online. Like, but what is the difference? What makes it go from sizzle to steak and you know, maybe translating into what's made you successful?
It's a great question. You know, for me specifically, the first thing is I was just willing to outwork anyone. I was, you know, working 18 hours a day for a long time because I just felt I had no other choice. I think outside of that, the thing that's really helped me compared to others, there's really two things. It's either you have a really big organic following, which really is not my thing yet. I'd love to have that. But you'll see guys who have maybe 2, 3, 4 million subs on YouTube. And so they can just pump out anything they want and people will buy it. Or the other way is you just have to be really good at building a team. And where I see most people struggle is it's just so hard to find quality talent and get them to perform at the level that maybe you would. And that took me a long time to understand because I'd hire someone, I'd show them something twice, and then they keep messing up. And I'm like, man, how many times do I have to show you? And the answer is you got to have to show them forever, depending on the position. And then the higher or more you pay someone, the less you're hoping you have to show them. But I think it's really the biggest issue in the online industry or like education industry is, you know, people view it as quick money. And then when it comes to delivering the fulfillment, they don't really put time into their teams. And so the product just is not very good. And yeah, 80% aren't, but it's hard to win for long periods of time because the nature of the industry already is it's scammy. Like that's how most people view it is it's like, oh, it's kind of scammy. It's kind of icky. It's kind of gross. And, you know, I got into the industry not really like, I just didn't know what else to do. I mean, that's what my mentor showed me. And I am starting to transition into other types of industries. But, you know, I just went in there and did the best I could do. And I think I've built a really good team. And that's a very hard skill to learn. So I got about a team of between 85 to 100 at any time. And yeah, I mean, I think it was that because that's what allows you to step out and keep that sustainability because otherwise I feel people burn out because they're just having to do too many things on their own.
Yep. A lot of good insight there. And to unpack, I want to start with where you started, which I actually own the trademark to a phrase that's called it pays to be known. It pays to be known. And like you said, when you have and build an organic following, you know, a real following, you can sort of monetize it in a lot of different ways. And it's not just to take advantage of them and make money on them, but you're bringing value to them because they follow you for a reason. But when you start to build that audience, you can turn it on in a lot of different ways. And I think that's the first thing you described is if you have that built in, it sort of gives you a leg up at the beginning. At least that's how I'm interpreting what you meant.
Yeah, I mean, so I built my company predominantly on paid traffic, and paid traffic works and it's great, but there's ebbs and flows. Like sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. If I could go back in time, I don't want to say I would have done something different, but I would have taken more care to build maybe a YouTube channel. I'm actually trying to do it now, but if you're able to do that, what happens is I'd say about 60% of my operational cost is marketing. So if you cut away 60%, that can take your margins from 30% to 40%, or 70% or higher. And, you know, if you're making 70% margins, I mean, it's just very easy to scale and very easy to run a business. So, and it also takes complexity away from the business because I'd say a lot of our time is spent on the marketing. So then you only have to focus on fulfillment. It just simplifies it quite a bit. Yeah. So you can win with paid traffic, but it takes more skill. I think you have to be a lot more skilled to do that versus building an organic following because it just drives your cost of expense down.
That's right. So let's back up for the audience. Elite CEOs. Let's get down to the nitty gritty here. What is it? Who are we serving? Who are we helping? Let's just talk nuts and bolts about what the company does and is.
Yeah. So originally I had a fitness company called Fit Warrior, and I built that very fast and very quickly. A lot of trainers started noticing. I originally never thought I was going to be a business consultant. I actually hated business consultants. I just did not like them. And I had a lot of trainers ask for help. And so that actually turned into fitness CEOs. And then more people outside of trainers started to help. And so that's actually how Elite CEOs came about. We really have two demographics. I'd say we still get 50% of our clientele are trainers because I just built a name in that industry. And then the rest are people that are I consider non-trainers.
Just all online, just to be clear, because we're going to fit them. Yeah, in its essence is in person, sweat and guts. So but just to be clear, are we talking purely online businesses?
Correct. Yeah. So trainers that want to go online or business owners that want to go online. So the people we serve are usually selling high ticket products. It's easier for us to charge more. It's easier for us to make sure they get results. They're selling it over the phone. I've seen anything. A lot of times when people think who are you serving? It's when they're teaching some type of aspect. So it could be day trading. It could be beauty consultants. It could be salons. It could be gyms. They're giving some type of service-based business and they're able to charge a high price. Reason we can't really work with companies that charge low prices is it's just we can't make any margin. So if I charge them $16,000 and they're making $100 sales, they're just never able to recoup their investment. But those are really the companies we work with, and then we just help them A to Z, like marketing, sales, fulfillment, hiring, training, recruiting. I mean, we got a pretty vast operation, but I think it's helped us compete because not as many people can do it, and that's why I have such a large staff.
So for the layman's out there, I have a skill set. Maybe being a trainer, it skews that way because of your background, and you're helping them turn that into an online business through which they're coaching or upselling high ticket offers.
Yeah. So the way I actually did it is, I was a trainer and I realized, hey, this is capped out very low. This isn't going to get me where I want to go. I love fitness. So I got to figure out how can I turn fitness into something that can make me a millionaire. And so what I realized is if you go out and you learn how to build a social media, market online, do sales calls over the phone, I could charge infinitely more money, which a lot of people, they don't get that. I didn't either. But when I made my first sale at $1,500, I was like, oh my gosh. And then I made one at $2,000 and then $3,000. I made a sale like $6,000 or $7,000 one time for the CEO. So at the end of the day, all you're doing is you're doing communication through the phone and then you're sending them the plans. And so I just tell trainers, think of it as you're doing all the same stuff minus the workouts. Because most people, what they're paying for in person is you to sit there and watch them through the workout, which is actually the least important part. And that was actually my big selling point is I said, look, the biggest thing I'm going to do for you is nutrition. That's 90% of your results. All these other trainers, they're going to focus on the workout, which really doesn't matter that much anyways. And it's usually illegal when they're working at the gym to do that. And there's super gray lines and all that type of stuff, but gyms will definitely fire trainers for that. But when you're online doing your own thing, it's there's no one really telling you what to do. So that's how I built a 7-figure company, just selling packages over the phone. That's what I did. And
then you would train them, with diet and training like you just described with that individually.
So I would give them an app where it would have their nutrition and their training, and then they'd have access to me one-to-one. And then once a week they do a sheet, and it was easy because a lot of these people they don't even understand nutrition at all. They don't even understand calories. They don't know what macros are, and ultimately fitness is not that complex. It's eat less, move more. So I would just build a routine that would be flexible for the things they wanted with parameters. And that's how I sold them. I was like, hey, I'm going to set it within these parameters, and they stay within the parameters. They lose weight. It just wasn't that complex. And so they'd be super excited because typically when people are paying for trainers, they're going to the gym, their diets don't change at all. So they don't look any different. And so I would focus more on the nutrition. I wouldn't care how much they worked out. I'd be like, I give recommendations, but I'm like, hey, as long as you follow the diet, you're good. And you could still have some treats as long as you stay within these guidelines, which is just if it fits your macros. And it just felt like, I don't know, my clients, it just felt like it blew their minds. It was just this mind-blowing concept for them, which for me was very simple.
You know, not to get too sidebarred on the diet and the fitness side, but like, you know, it's so true though. Like I can go beat myself up at the gym and I know this, and I'm like, I can't outwork the diet, you know? I mean, I'm 46 now. I couldn't outwork it at 36 or 26 either, but it's like, you just can't. It's like, so you thought you were coming to learn about coaching and scaling and all that, but we're here to tell you, you got to watch that diet if you want to look like you want to in the mirror.
Absolutely.
Tanner, talking with Tanner Chidester here, CEO and founder of Elite CEOs. So Tanner, talk to me about the core of, okay, you're teaching people, let's get to the nitty gritty. What exactly and how do you set them up? I know you've got kind of a system online. I looked at that. It was pretty sharp. I was like, I actually want to talk to you after this about some personal things. So, guilty secrets here of wanting to get ahead. But in all seriousness, let's talk about what's the nitty gritty for how you do this, how you set them up.
Yeah. So when a client comes in, they get a one-to-one coach. And so that coach is working with them throughout the entire program. They get a portal that's like A to Z videos on anything you can think of. It's like text messages, emails, opt-ins, pages, funnels, all that type of stuff. They also get access to a Facebook group. And then we also do live events, usually once a quarter. And then we just coach them all the way through that. And what most people struggle with is, they may know what to do, but they're just terrible at it. That's just the truth. And so they're not good at messaging. They sound weird on the sales calls. They don't know how to set up fulfillment. Maybe they suck at tech. They don't understand marketing. They don't know how to run ads. And so most of our time is training and coaching relentlessly on those things. And then I forgot, we also have daily office hours and coaching calls. Office hours is like a Q&A, and then the coaching calls will be on a specific topic. So we do a little bit of a hybrid model where I'm not a huge fan of group, because usually group just is not, group's fine for guys like me. It's not really great, in my opinion, for super beginners. But we do kind of a daily they have 2 group calls a day, and then they have unlimited with their coach. So essentially they could have 3 to 4 calls a day if they wanted. Plus they have the portals and the live events and all that stuff. So that's the best way I've found to do it, where it's the mix between the clients get the best results and your business is able to scale. You could go to group, but the clients just don't get results, and they seem to get a lot more upset from what I've seen in the past.
What's the, I love giving value to the audience. So, you don't have to give away every secret. I'm kind of an open book with secrets, executions, everything. But I'm trying to grow coaching. What's something that might make someone pause because they'd probably be surprised, or I might be surprised at how well it works, like with lead generation for high ticket? Like what's the building blocks of that?
Yeah. So honestly, the way I did it, a lot of people, when I was coming into the industry like 4 or 5 years ago, they would run a lot of webinars and they'd run stuff straight to a page. So for anyone listening who doesn't understand, like if you see an ad on Facebook, you click on it, it usually takes you to a page where then they ask for your email, and then they send you a presentation, and then you get a call. And that just never really worked for me at all. I just couldn't ever get results. And so what I did is I actually started messaging each and every lead individually. And that's actually what made all the difference. And I grew 8-figure company just giving that personalization one-to-one. So one of the big building blocks of my company, what we help clients with, is really learning how to message leads and
like
set up calls.
Message, DMing, or we talk about
really DMs. Yeah, text works as well, but I find that DMs are a little less invasive, or people, they feel like they're less invasive. And so that's actually a cornerstone of building my companies, where we follow up with pretty much every single lead individually. And it takes a lot of pressure off the marketing, and it makes it a lot more consistent, because they're getting, what about this? What about this? And then also it makes it good for the sales team, because by the time they get to the sales call, they're much more qualified than if they just clicked on a page and opted in and booked on their own. So that actually, it's a lot harder. It sounds easy, but when you have, when you're doing millions of dollars and you got like 12, 15 people in there, you have to create a pretty unique system. And that's really helped us scale over the years and stay on top, I think.
What's the, okay, so It's the personalized messaging once they get in the funnel, though. What's getting them in the top of the funnel?
Yeah, so it'll be an ad typically to a message. So like IG message or Facebook message. And then it'll fire an initial link to the funnel. And then you hit them on both sides, because if they book a call automatically, great. If they don't, you can message them. And then on top of that, your team can call, email, text. So you're just hitting them from all angles. And then, you can do back-end automations to the Facebook group, retargeting ads, so that's what I found is you just kind of buy or die. You just hit them until they either take action or they unsub. And that's kind of been our protocol. Every time we've only ran stuff straight to the page, it just has never performed as well for us, at least in our industry. Every industry can change, but that's kind of been what we've seen in our industry.
How do you define high ticket?
Usually it's $1,500 or more.
Okay.
I mean,
like one time or monthly?
No, I mean, it can be one time or monthly. I mean, everyone has a different definition, but usually for me, it's about $1,500 or more. If you're charging less than that, it's not usually worth it. So that's what I've always done. And it creates a lot of margin so you can grow teams and pay people. There are ways, you can win with lower priced items, but I usually find it's much more complex and it's not really for beginners. I tell, beginners, I'm like, low ticket is for experts. High ticket is for beginners typically.
It's always fascinating to me. So I came up, I'm a hybrid guy, came up analog/digital, I own a digital agency now, but came up in the crux and worked on some of the largest brands in the world. And we've done this transition, and a lot of my, age bracket of things that I think would be like high ticket buyers, I think LinkedIn. But then, I've grown personally the last 6 years on Instagram, at least my personal profile. And I know everybody's sort of on Facebook. That's kind of like the first of the everyone, right? But where does LinkedIn play for you guys, or does it even play at all, versus Instagram versus Facebook, in trying to get to high value, high net worth individuals?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you're not really, it depends on your offer, but typically you're not going to find super high net worth individuals who are scrolling on Instagram and Facebook and coming through that way. Maybe here and there. But I think that's actually a lot harder. A lot of those might sit on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn ads are super expensive. So in the beginning days of my company, we were spending upwards of $500,000 a month on Facebook. And then in year 3 or 4, it just kind of shifted and all the quality on Facebook kind of started to suck and it shifted to Instagram. So we usually run most of our ads to Instagram. For whatever reason, that seems to be much higher quality now. We don't do as much on Facebook. We try on YouTube, but YouTube's been tough lately, but YouTube also has pretty high quality because it's search. LinkedIn, we don't really touch. And mostly that's just because, one, I just think people are outreaching a lot more there. It's not, people will go on Instagram and Facebook just for that. LinkedIn is literally, it's all business owners, right? So everyone's kind of lead genning and so forth. And the ads are also super expensive. So it's, again, it depends on your industry. Some people I'm sure make it work. Some people, hey, LinkedIn's amazing. But for us and for my company at scale to consistently get that client, it's usually been Facebook or Instagram. And in the last 2 years, it's been predominantly Instagram.
Yeah. And so you're finding, 6-figure plus earners at scale on Instagram?
Yeah, either high 5 or 6. Yeah, but typically that's kind of been our bread and butter. I will say this, all the years we've done it, COVID was by far the time we were just had the lowest cost of acquisition. Everyone was indoors, everyone's wanting to move online. Yeah. It all makes sense. Right now, I don't know if the news is saying there's a recession or not, but it feels like it. It feels like people are being a little bit more tight with their wallets right now. And I've seen a lot in the last 6 years, but Instagram is our predominant channel right now.
Yeah. Yeah. We never in time have we been more tried to be talked into a recession than we are. But even though we're actually beating it, in spite of the news trying to talk us into it.
Yeah.
There's definitely less money in the market from, the COVID stuff, but that stuff, most of that money's been spent for 2 years, so I think we're doing better than we think we are, and the news is sort of starting to give up the ghost on the recession, because I said in December and January, and I've got it on record, that this would not be a recession, no matter how much we try to be talked into it. So, but I do think people are being more careful with their money, but the data shows we're not in a recession. So anyway, I'll try to stay off that soapbox.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
So Tanner, so we're getting leads, we're teaching people how to scale. What makes or breaks this for people? Like, I know it kind of started the whole interview sort of with what made or break it for you. But like you said, some people suck at marketing, some people, but if they follow the system and they're truly driven, what does ultimately make or break it for people?
I mean, if I just was to go off my best clients and worst clients, the best clients are usually good at sales and they're good communicators. Because all direct marketing is typically you're having conversations in the DMs or you're having a conversation on the phone. And that's where it all starts. You can't make sales, you can't grow the company. So most people, if I was going to give you an analogy, it's like all the guys, they're like, oh, I'm really good at talking to girls. But when you see them talk to girls, they're not, and they're horrible and they say weird stuff. That's the issue is people think they're saying the right things, but they're not. And so I would say 80% of my program is making sure and auditing that they're saying the right things, because people will be like, oh, I'm following the system, I'm doing it. And you go in and you say, that's weird, that's wrong, that is not what you say here, that's completely off. And it's a skill you have to learn. And the thing that helped me is when I was younger, I did door-to-door sales for about 8 months, 6 days a week, about 12 hours a day. It was 2 hours area, 8 hours knocking, 2 hours back. And so when I started my online business, I was like, oh, this is a joke, because these people actually want what I'm selling versus door to door. They'd come to the door with guns and knives and, fire and brimstone. So I just think most people, when they start a business, they've never done like any formal communication or sales. Some of them haven't even done anything really hard. And so they don't really understand how to communicate. And then they also don't understand the amount of volume, right? Like, oh, I sent 10 messages. I'm like, yeah, send like 100 more and then come back. It's also a volume game a little bit in the beginning, because if your skills are low, you're going to have to work harder than I am to get the same amount of sales. But that would be the biggest thing. I'd say just lack of sales skills. Like, they don't know how to communicate very well and they don't know how to sell. And so they never really get it off the ground. Everything else, if you can get sales in the door, you can mess up for a long time and fix it later. Right. But you got to get money in the door to keep the business alive.
Yep. You say you're still doing a lot of trainers. What are the maybe the other sub segments of typical coaches that you're kind of onboarding?
Yeah, I say like we get a lot of stock traders. We'll get some automation experts. So that could be like YouTube automation or Amazon automation or Walmart automation. We'll get beauty coaches. So like they'll show ladies how to, grow their beauty salons. We'll get a lot of ad agencies, right? So they'll run agencies for different types of companies. Real estate's a popular one, especially like wholesaling or Airbnb. So, it's a lot of teaching. Obviously, it's a lot of service-based businesses, and that's kind of the gist of them. I mean, I know we get more, but I'll be honest with you, I've been out of fulfillment so long that that'd probably be a better question for my team. But those are like the ones off the top of my head.
And so they're trying to turn their knowledge, though, into sales, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, how can they sell their knowledge and package it? Correct?
Yeah, exactly. So, when I was a trainer, I mean, I just took what I already knew in person, moved it online. People started asking me for help. I just took, okay, here's how I built my fitness company. And you're just showing them the back end. So a lot of times, like one of my clients, he's an amazing day trader. He has ran a hedge fund. And so he's like, hey, I'll show you guys how to do the trades and all that type of stuff. And that's typically what does the best. You don't always have to do that. But it's easier typically when it's revolved around money. But, it's got to be money, health, or relationships, right? And so as long as they know either, A, I'm going to get, better dating, better relationship with my wife, or more money or more health, those are usually the sectors that do the best. When people go outside of that and there's not one of those three things is improving, it's really tough.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I've seen.
Do you guys coach people on refining the offer or the, okay, I'm good at this, I've got this knowledge, and helping them kind of package that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's one of our core pillars. That's the first thing we do when they come in. I'd say the biggest issue we have is if someone comes in, they have no idea what they want to do. So if someone comes in, they're like, hey, here's kind of what I'm thinking. This is great. The reason sometimes it's, this is just like on a side note, the reason it is an issue at times is because if it's your idea, not theirs, they don't get very passionate behind it. And so we really try to push either to bring people in who already know what they want to do, or we're like, hey, look, we'll help you set it up, but you need to be the one who you tell us what you want to sell. Because if you start, what happens is if you tell them and then they start getting hit in the mouth and they're not succeeding, we notice like they're more likely to quit than the person who's like, hey, I'm a trainer, I'm really good at this, I just need to learn marketing and sales, for example.
Yeah. How does like organic social media play into all this? Whether it's their business or their personal feed, like, do you guys give them coaching on that? And how does that dynamic play into all of it?
Yeah, we definitely help coach them on, what to put in their bios and like what pictures to post. To be frank with you, my first like 2 years of business, I didn't post on social media at all because my ads were working so well and I would just make sales from messaging people organically. So I think a lot of times the funny part is people get really caught up in, I got to post organic content and build a following. And really, you don't have to do that till later down the line, if at all. I built my whole business pretty much with paid ads, and I didn't post for 2 years because I was like, okay, if I message these followers, or I would even message strangers sometimes, and I get them on a call, I'll make money. And so that just reinforced that my time should be spent doing that. So we do help with it, but there's a huge fallacy typically that, hey, I have to have a big following and all that type of stuff. And the reality is you really don't. There's a lot of rich people who don't have followings. Obviously it can help.
Yeah.
But it really comes down to sales. And if they're good at sales, everything else is really easy after that.
Is everything you're running as an ad-like object? Like, so what do I mean by that? Like, is it truly, okay, explaining what you're selling and like getting the lead? Or is it ever, I live, again, back to like the world I grew up in, you had brand and then demand. So branding, how do I build trust and authority? And, you're telling about what you deliver, but it's not a hardcore sign up today, get it now, 20% off,
Yeah.
So
Most of the stuff we run is to a training or a video or a download. More times than not, it's something specific, right? And most people, they want stuff on leads, they want stuff on sales. Even if there's other stuff, there's a saying, give them what they want so you can give them what they need. Most people want stuff for sales. So most of the time we're doing it to a free training. We actually are not selling stuff a lot on the front end, but they kind of know what's going on, right? Like, so they're like, hey, we're going to click on this ad. I'm going to get something. You guys are going to lead gen me. At least I would say most people do, but we're usually giving away free stuff and then we're selling on the back end. The only time we'll sell something on the front end is if it's really cheap, and it'll be like $37, $7, and then we'll just slam them with our sales team on the back end to get them on a consultation call to upsell something.
Got it. So lead magnet, is kind of the common term, but it's, you're giving away something that to then the ones that are serious about it, giving them something that's worth buying as the second offer, so to speak.
Correct.
Yeah. Correct. Hey, you got to give value before you take it. That's the lesson.
Yeah.
And
it also makes it easier because it'll drive your costs down. And, for anyone who's listening, the book Ready, Fire, Aim, I really like that book because the main concept in the book for scale is it actually says the metric you should measure is how many leads you get, right? And so if you're focusing on increasing the amount of leads you get, you will make more sales. And that's actually a great number to focus on. So it's always around how can we get more leads? And so whether you're selling something for, a low price and then you're upselling on the back end or you're giving away free content, as long as you're getting more leads, it's going to turn to more sales, typically, right? Unless you're like your team's not good. But if you're getting a lot of leads, I'm assuming you already know what you're doing.
Bingo. Yeah. I don't know. I'd never heard that term. And like, I will say the one quote, you're a quote guy. I could tell like me, give them what they want so you can give them what they need. I'm going to use that one. I thought I heard them all. I haven't even heard of that one. But I used to fire aim ready all the time. And I'd never heard that there was actually a book or anything. So I get to claim like the second copyright on that because I used it like 10 or 15 years ago and at a meeting with a client. And it just came to me. I mean, I'd never read. I'm not bullshitting, but I love that shit. I got to read that book though. What's the?
Yeah, it's Ready, Fire, Aim by Michael Masterson.
Yeah,
and it literally goes through and says, okay, here's what you focus on: go 0 to 1, 1 to 10, 10 to 50, and then 50 to 100. And the main thing for most people when they're trying to scale is, well, that's not the main thing, but the big thing he says to focus on your marketing. He's like, just literally only focus on getting more leads. Right? Like just getting as many leads as humanly possible. And then that's how you'll scale your company. It's just constantly focusing on how to get more leads, which sounds kind of simplistic here, but the premise is just, if you're getting 5,000 leads, figure out how to get 7,000, then 8,000, then 9,000, and that will translate into more sales on the back end.
Tanner, personally, I mean, what makes you happy, brother? I mean, what keeps you going?
Yeah, that's a good question. I actually, in January, I stepped out of my company for a little bit. So I still owned it, but I let other people manage it. And I started traveling the world. And part of that was, there's two reasons. Part of it is that although I'm really proud of the company I've built, it's not going to be the end all be all. There's other things I want to do. And there's bigger opportunities. I'll say that. Warren Buffett talks about there's better vehicles. And I think this is a great vehicle to start your career in possibly. But I think there's other places I want to go. And then, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do next and, kind of answer some life questions. I don't have it all figured out yet. I still think I'm in a discovery phase. I'm 31, just barely turned 31. So I think I'm in that phase of like, how do I want to live the rest of my life? But to be honest, it's funny, like when stuff is hard, a lot of times we wish it were easier and we, man, I wish I could go on vacation, do all these other things. But, the irony is typically when I feel my best is when I am working really hard, when things are difficult, when I've had a bad day. It's ironic. Yesterday was probably one of the worst days of my life. Like there were so many there's probably like 6 or 7 pretty, I'd say, bad things that happened that most people would be like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And I'm doing these like daily rants now. That's part of my content my team wants me to do. And I don't know, like it sucks, but I feel happiest, I think, when I'm lost, like trying to be the best I can be, like in all aspects, personal development, business, pushing myself. And you're kind of there at the end of the day and you're exhausted, but you put in like a good day's work. And I think ultimately that's what we're here to do. I don't think any amount of like hedonism is like the answer. I'm not saying like you can't do it sometimes. Like I'm not here to debate like 0 or like a little bit, but I do think that being the basis of your life is not the right path. I do think it is getting lost in a good cause and hard work. So, I'm kind of like for anyone who knows who Alex Hormozi is, like that's kind of the premise I align with a little bit more, where, some people will say he's over the top, but that's not for me to say. But I think the thing I do like is he's really about, he just really wants to work hard and he gets a lot of fulfillment out of that. And I'd say that's the biggest thing for me is, just doing that, like just trying to be the best I can be. And even if I fail, like, I don't know, it's okay. Cause that happened to me in sports. I wanted to play in the NFL. And when it didn't work out, I was able to walk away knowing I did everything I could. So that was like a very rewarding feeling.
Yeah. And look, dude, if you had the worst day you've ever had, or one of them yesterday, but then you had the fortitude, like to come on this interview and suck it up and, but like, and I sensed maybe a little bit, I mean, I've got a good read on people, but maybe there was a little bit of, I didn't know it was the worst day ever, but it says a lot that you kind of, you put it on, you go, you wear the wins, you wear the losses, and you make the best of it, and I think anyone that hasn't ever had satisfaction from working hard has never worked hard.
Yeah, well, and you said you like quotes, so like this is actually one of my quotes on my phone. And the quote is, whenever I get to a low point when I think, why do I even bother? I just remind myself that this is where most people quit and this is why they don't win. And so yesterday I was like really reading that quote a million times because like I just wanted to quit. And it's a mixture of business and personal. So it was like all at once.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of the goal is you can't have an extraordinary life doing ordinary things. Like you have to have or easy time, excuse me. So it's like you can have an easy life and ordinary, or you have a hard life and extraordinary. And so I think the irony is we get upset sometimes when we have these difficult times, but that's what makes our extraordinary lives. And so I'm just trying to lean into that more and push through. And so it kind of raises your bar where if this is all you can handle, every time you handle harder stuff, it just keeps raising until, your ceiling is, your ceiling is like just so far above other people that's how you can set yourself apart, I think.
Yep. It's just like going to the gym. You start stacking those weights, they go higher and higher and higher because you get, train yourself, and it's similar type thing. But, you want a radical life, you got to be radical. And my friend Tanner is radical. I really appreciate you coming on, Tanner. Where can everybody keep it up with you?
Yeah, just honestly, anywhere my social media channels. I don't think there's very many Tanner Chidesters. So if you just type in my name on YouTube, Google, Instagram, like you'll find me. And I'm trying to grow my content. This is like the first time I've really tried to push. So if you guys hear this, like give me some feedback and let me know what you guys want to see.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming on, brother. I really appreciate your story and opening up there at the end. And I wish you nothing but the best of luck.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Hey guys, you know where to find us, theradcast.com. Search for Tanner. You'll find, I think he's the only Tanner we've had on the show after 300 plus episodes, I think. You look for search just Tanner. You'll find all the highlight clips and the full episode from today. We'll also have links to all of Tanner's content and social media channels. And you know where to find me. I'm at Ryan Alford on all the channels, verified before you could buy it. We'll see you next time on the Radcast.
To listen or watch full episodes, visit us on the web at theradcast.com or follow us on social media at our Instagram account, the.rad.cast, or at Ryan Alford. Stay radical.